We are in the midst of Holy Week this week, the most important week of the Christian church year. So I have a few thoughts about that in this episode and also an invitation for your questions and comments. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Pastor Tim Westermeyer here, Senior Pastor of St. Philip the Deacon in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. Good to be with you as always. We took last week off, a rare week off for us, actually. I was out in New York at the United States Military Academy at West Point for a big milestone for our youngest son, Andrew. Maybe we'll throw up a couple of pictures here. From that weekend. It's called Plebe Parent Weekend, and it was a wonderful opportunity to celebrate his entire class of 2027 and how far they've come since we dropped them off this summer. I think I did a couple of episodes about that. Anyway, it was a great weekend. It was very unusual for me in that I'm not sure in my entire life, let alone as a pastor, I'm not sure I've ever missed Palm Sunday before. We were actually traveling on Palm Sunday, so we weren't here for that. We celebrated that like Christians around the world yesterday. I'm taping this on the Monday right after Palm Sunday, which brings to mind the sort of point of this episode, which is just to lift up the fact that we are now in Holy Week. And so I will remind you of the schedule of services that we have coming up here at St. Philip the Deacon. If you're either here in person or you are prone to or interested in joining us digitally, please do so. If you are part of another congregation somewhere else around the world, I encourage you to participate in the activities of Holy Week wherever you find yourself and with whatever faith family is important to you. So I'll walk us through sort of the main events of Holy Week, which again start Palm Sunday. We sort of tee up with Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, and then it sort of turns, typically at least, in most churches, and we do this here, it points us towards the events ultimately of Good Friday. So before then, of course, comes Maundy Thursday. Maundy, not Monday, but Maundy. Maundy comes from a Latin word mandatum, which just means commandment. So that's the night of the Last Supper when Jesus says, I give you a new commandment that you love one another as I have loved you. So we remember the Last Supper very often. Washing of feet is incorporated into the Maundy Thursday services, and that moves us then to Good Friday, of course. And by the way, Maundy Thursday here at St. Philip the Deacon, we have a service at 7 p.m. Central Time. Good Friday is, of course, that sort of paradoxical title of a day. We call it good, even though it's the day that Jesus dies, because we as Christians recognize that through that death, something powerful and life-changing and good did come, but people are often confused by that. So again, Good Friday here, we have a children's service at 5:30 and another service not focused only on children at 7 p.m. Then at St. Philip the Deacon, we have our usual Saturday night service. We call it on Easter weekend. We call it our first light of Easter. That will be at 5 p.m. Central Time. It's sort of the first glimpse of the power of the resurrection after the events of Jesus' arrest and brutal treatment and trial and ultimate crucifixion. And then on Easter Sunday, of course, we have our usual 3 services, although if you are joining us here in person, I will remind you that on Easter weekend, on Easter Sunday, I should say, we do change the times of the first and last service just slightly to give us a little bit more margin between services. So rather than 8:15, 9:30, and 10:45, our Easter Sunday service schedule is 8 o'clock, 9:30, and 11 o'clock a.m. Easter is obviously the high point of the church year. It's the most important festival. Without Easter, there is no Christianity. As Dorothy Sayers said in the famous series of plays, I've mentioned this many times, she wrote in that introduction, it's the only thing that has ever really happened. That's what Christians would confess and believe. And I will look forward to celebrating all of the events of Holy Week with each of you. I am on this Monday sitting with, as I always do, the message that I will bring on Easter Sunday and communicating the power of the resurrection in about 8 or 9 or 10 minutes is one of the challenges that I accept willingly, but it is an impossible task ultimately, I think, to convey the mystery and the miracle of the resurrection. So I would invite, this is, as always, it's a genuine question for you. If there are questions you have about Holy Week or about Easter, I would love to know what those are. Before the weekend would be helpful if you feel like responding. We'll get this out on Wednesday of this week, I think. Or if there are things you would you would expect to hear maybe on Easter Sunday, I would be interested in hearing what those are as well. Again, I want my message to both communicate the power and miracle and mystery of the resurrection, but I also want it to be something that responds to the needs of the people who are alive at this particular moment in history and helps us all to better understand how we go about living our lives. So, again, it's a way of just introducing you or inviting you to participate in all the events of Holy Week. I do hope I'll see you at some point this week, either in person or digitally. And I invite you to reach out to me with, again, whatever questions you might have or thoughts you might have about this very important time of year. And as always, be well, stay in touch, and God bless.